I made this content as a joke some time ago, but please let us be serious now because anybody can fall a victim. Please, if your girlfriend dies in your house, or your boyfriend dies in your house, or somebody dies in your house, somebody that visited you, please, and you know that you're not the one that did it, you are innocent, something happened and the person died. Please, how can you get out of that situation here in Nigeria? How? Let's say, assuming you call the police and the police, how can you get out of that trouble without any other issue? We know how autopsy tests used to happen here in Nigeria. Look at Mobile Zone. I don't think that one is even out. Do you get what I'm saying? So how can you get out of that trouble? Anybody can fall a victim because he sure me die. See, some people they jail now. Some people are in jail in Nigeria right now for a similar situation, something they know nothing about, but simply because they could not prove their innocence. Please, how? If you know how, let us know at the comment section. Anybody can fall.
Some people have been in situations where they came home and met someone that they left at home dead or suspected that the person was dead. Some people have also been in situations where they went to a hotel room with their lover or the house of their lover, and then in the process of some action, their lover died. Some people have also been in situations where they slept overnight with their friends, acquaintances, and then woke up and discovered that the person was dead or suspected that the person was dead. So what do you do in a situation like this? So let's be logical about this matter. If you suspect that someone is dead, the first thing you should do is to try to save that life. So you should call the emergency medical response, or you take the person to the nearest hospital. While you're doing that, you can inform the police, escalate it, call the neighbors, call the person's relatives, escalate it, because every step you take from the moment you suspect that that person is dead is important. You are not a medical practitioner, or except you're a medical practitioner, you cannot pronounce someone dead. So you have to take the person to a hospital or call an emergency medical response to first confirm that the person is dead. And while all of that is going on, you escalate it, call relatives, call neighbors, call the police, because every single step you take from the moment you suspect that the person is dead is important, and you need witnesses to back you up. So it is the duty of the medical experts to determine the cause of death of a deceased person through autopsy. And then if you're being accused of murder, you are not in any position to prove that you did not murder the deceased person. It is not your job to prove that you did not murder the person. It is a job of the prosecution to prove beyond reasonable doubt that you murdered the deceased person. So you are not in any position to prove that you were not in any way connected to the murder of the deceased person. In criminal law, there's a doctrine called the doctrine of last seen, and this doctrine presumes that the person last seen with the deceased is the killer or the suspect. However, this doctrine cannot work except the prosecution is able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that because you were the last person seen with the deceased, you are the person who carried out the act or omission that killed the deceased person. And then, before you can be convicted of murder, there must be proof that indeed there is a deceased person and that your act or omission is what caused the death of the deceased person. Also, there's something called causal link. The prosecution must prove that your act is what caused the death of the deceased. It doesn't matter if you planned in the past to kill the deceased. The prosecution must prove that it was your own act that caused the death of the deceased, or your omission that caused the death of the deceased. So whether you planned before to kill the deceased is not enough proof that you killed the deceased person. In a situation where you were not around when the deceased person was murdered, or you came home and then you met the deceased person, another defense you can raise is the defense of alibi. And this simply means that you were not around when the person was being murdered. In the case of Tunji versus State, Per Honorable Justice Owade, the Court of Appeal stated that the defense of alibi must be brought at the early stage during investigation and not during trial. This simply means that while investigations are being carried out, that is a time where you tell the police, the relatives, everyone who cares to know that you were not around when the deceased person was murdered. It's not during trial when you've already gone to court. You're not telling the court that you were not even there. First of all, from the beginning of the investigations, you must state clearly, unequivocally, that you were not at the scene of the murder. Children between the ages of 0 to 7 cannot be held criminally responsible for murder, and also children between the ages of 8 and 12 cannot be held criminally responsible for murder, except you can prove that that child had the capacity to know that he ought not to have carried out the act or omission that led to the death of the deceased person. Section 319, subsection 1 of the Criminal Code states that the penalty for murder is death. Beware. Thank you so much for listening.